What's going on, everybody? Yashua Suarez with Edge Realty. This is another episode of the Edge Realty podcast. And today I've got our fearless leader here in the house today, the one and only Mr. Corbin Kidd.
What's up,
I wish
dude?
I had like an applause thing in
I
the
know, like a
background.
background photo, like some sort of just hype music,
One of these
walkout
days,
song.
oh my goodness, smoke everywhere,
Yes.
flames, pyrotechnics. One of these days, I'm gonna have like an audience. We're gonna make it with an
I can't
audience.
wait. Yeah,
We're
we
gonna
got.
see if we can do that.
It's like
That'd be
back in
awesome.
the day, the little sitcoms you'd watch, and you'd hear laughing and clapping in the background when somebody made a joke.
Put the applause.
Yeah, I need that. Yeah, we'll have a teleprompter up there telling them what to do and what to say, when to laugh.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. So, hey, man, thank you so much for being here. You are a busy
Absolutely.
man. It's funny. We always have to, I feel like we always have to like schedule just to meet each other. So a lot of times,
It
but
seems like that
it's
sometimes.
changed a lot more since we've been in the same
I
office now.
love it.
I love that. I can go right down the hallway and I can just see your beautiful face and
I
we can
love
talk
it.
about whatever it is we need
I
to talk
love it.
about. Man, today's kind of a special episode. It's always a special episode, but I think I like these because we get to talk and kind of share what it is that we got going on here
100%.
with Edge Realty, and then get the insights of you yourself as a principal broker, as a co-owner, as an investor, as a contractor, and hopefully even as a developer as well
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So
Many hats.
so yeah, I mean, dude, you wear a lot of hats. So how hard? I'll get right into this, and I'm gonna be kind of going through our questions, but like I'm probably gonna be bouncing back and forth.
Yeah.
But this kind of gave us a nice little
Little
segue.
conversation.
What? How do you balance having all those hats, and also being able to run a business like this that is Edge Realty?
It's hard. Who you surround yourself with, I think, is a huge part of that. I've got a core group of employees, subs, agents that I don't want to say it runs by itself, but we've been around and we've done this long enough now to where we've kind of got the processes, the people, everybody knows their role. Obviously, as we evolve and grow, roles change and people come into new roles and all that stuff. But I think just having a support system that helps you no matter what it is, whether it's building or flipping or a brokerage problem or a rental problem or whatever it is. I've always got somebody. Now, most of the time everybody's coming to me to ask some of these questions or get their answers or whatever it is, but I don't always have the answers. You know that. I mean, there's plenty of times that we'll get together on a topic or a problem or whatever it is, and I may not have a problem or a solution to the problem, but I can typically find it. And I think that's probably where I strive. Is I'm extremely humble to the point of I'm not scared to tell you I don't know the answer at all, but I will find it. Whether it's calling somebody at AREC or ARA or another broker, another agent, another investor, builder, whatever it is, and finding out how they do it, because that's how you learn. That's how I've learned. The majority. My dad has obviously plays a huge factor in that. My wife, and then all of our people that are in different places, and just because I kind of wear the broker owner head honcho type hat, that doesn't mean I always know the answer. A lot of times the people that work for me or with me know the answer to the questions that I have. And that's a cool kind of evolving place that we've gotten to where there's people that I have to ask questions to daily to get to make sure I'm on top of it, to make sure I'm doing what they need, they're doing what I need, and it all works out.
See, I like that. There's one or two things. One, I like the fact that you didn't, you put it off as it's not just you. It's a
Yeah.
tribe that you have to create to be able to get to
Yeah.
that point, and to have some sort of stability when it comes to having all these hats that you hold.
Yeah.
And then on top of that too, not to interrupt you,
No,
excuse
no,
me,
no.
but the other thing was also is having the fortitude to know to say that you don't always have the answer, but
Yeah.
you know where to get the answer.
Yeah,
And
or I can find where I know people where I learned the hard way a long time ago, and I learned it every day, but I learned the hard way on where not delegating. JC taught me a lot of delegate, 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 delegate. That was he tried to preach that to me for 4 years, 5 years. and I was very hard headed because I can be a little bit of a control freak, and I don't
Who,
like to really
you?
yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I don't really like to call it control freak, but I joke with one of my buddies
That was
who
a total joke, by the way.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
a
yeah,
total
yeah,
joke. I was.
100%. All love here. But I joke all the time with some of my buddies that we have conversations around this stuff. And there's times when you do delegate, when you ask somebody to do something, when you push a task off on somebody else, if they don't do it exactly how you want it done, sometimes you sit back and you think, well, I could have just done that myself, and
Mhm.
I would have got it done right, or maybe not right, but maybe, and it may be right. Both ways may be right, but the direction or the path that you took to get there, and I've had to learn over time and the hard way, I guess, is the best way to put it, that how I get there isn't necessarily the only way to get there. It's not necessarily the right way to get there, as long as it gets done, as long as it gets there. And that's where I'm a very, well, I don't know what the opposite word of micromanager is, but that's me.
Yeah.
I don't like
Macro
micromanaging.
manager.
Macromanager, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah, duh.
Let's patent that.
Yeah. But I don't, as long as somebody can get their job done how they choose to get it done. I mean, obviously, if you get down into the schematics of it and it costs more money to do it that way or whatever, yeah, maybe you don't want to do that. But at the end of the day, if somebody has a job and they can get it done, I don't care if you used a cell phone or an iPad or a computer or a scratch pad to get your job done. Just, I'm glad you got your job done, and I didn't have to do it.
Man, how
But
do
that's
you?
hard.
I was gonna say because
It's hard.
that's exactly, and I have this battle constantly, and I wanted to ask you, how do you get the courage or the trust? That's my biggest thing about delegating is how do you create that trust to be able to delegate to somebody else?
I wish I had that answer, but that's probably one of the things I struggle with every day. Is just figuring out how to do it. Me and my dad have this conversation all the time because almost every day, the first thing he does when he calls me in the morning, hey, what can I do to help you today? Because he knows I'm running 19 different directions. And I may have 47 things on my to do list, but a lot of those things correlate to another job or another topic or another house or another project, whatever it is, that because I am kind of driving the boat on the majority of these things now, that I know exactly every caveat, every left turn, right turn, what I'm doing, why I'm doing this, where it's going to, all of those things, to where if you ask somebody, hey, will you run to Home Depot and grab these 7 items for me? If I'm running through Home Depot and do that, I might see something on an end cap that I remember that I should have done yesterday for another project, and
Yeah.
so it's just a struggle. But at the end of the day, once you figure out that, hey, as long as for this example, as long as I don't have to go to Home Depot right now, I can go do something else that hopefully is a money making activity, and that's where
Yeah.
I, business wise, that's where I try to figure out where I need to go next, is what's going to be the best money making activity. Maybe it's not today, maybe it's 20 years from now, but where is my time best spent today? And sometimes it's sitting in the office, sometimes it's being in the car for 6 hours and never leaving Lonoc County. So you just never know what it is, but that's the hardest part. I wish if I had the answer to that, I'd probably have my own podcast and be telling people how to do it, where to do it. But I learn every day, and a lot of that stuff I learned from talking and listening to other entrepreneurs and brokers and builders and all that type of stuff to
Yeah.
just try to get better.
Yeah, it's always asking the question. I think that's one thing that I feel people feel like they get discouraged when it comes to being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, or being a professional.
Yeah.
Is that they feel like as though they need to know all the answers right now.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it just a second ago. You said you kind of struggle with the same thing, and I think that's if you have if you're any type of entrepreneur, whether it's just a little bit, full fledged, whatever it is, I think there's no question that at some point, maybe not forever, but at some point, you're going to struggle with delegation, trust, um, micro slash macro management, whatever that is, and figuring out, and a lot of that's figuring out how your people react to different things. I mean, the majority of the people that I manage or that work for us or whatever, they don't want to be micromanaged, and they fit our bill for that reason. When we hired them, a lot of the reason we hired them was because they didn't want to be micromanaged. Well, I don't want to micromanage, so it's a perfect mesh.
Mm-hmm.
Where some people, and they probably wouldn't do good working for me, but some people need to be told every task, how to do it, when to do it, how to do it. I think I just said how to do it twice. But all of those things, they need to know what their next step is, and that's okay. And there's a lot of businesses and a lot of uh, ventures and all that stuff that fits perfect for their bill. A lot of business owners and bosses and all that stuff that fits perfect to their how they do things. It's That's just not my personality, and
Mhm.
so I think a whole lot of it, and that's another thing I've had to learn over the years of managing people and dealing with people is how you how you manage those people, how you treat those people, how they respond to your criticism, praise, whatever it is. I think you have to learn to tailor that to everybody,
Oh
to
yeah.
each individual.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's do this. I wanna talk especially about what we have going on here at Edge. First off, let's kind of tail that into. Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
What gave you that real estate bug, and not just in as a real estate agent, but also as the investor as well too that you are.
So, growing up, quick 3x5 story growing up, my dad had cell phone stores. I worked in his cell phone store starting at I think about 8 years old. Loved it and had a desire and a passion. As soon as I sold my first phone and made a commission check, I ate it up. I wanted to sell phones for the rest of my life and thought that's what I was going to do. And fast forward 5, 10, 15 years down the road, somebody came along, bought my dad's company out. It's perfect storm for where he was at in his life. And at that point, I thought that's what I was going to do forever. I was going to be a AT&T wireless rep, and I didn't need to go to college in my mind. I didn't need to do anything. I was going to run cell phone stores. That's all I knew. Um, and then that comes along, that happens, and so at that, I think I was maybe 19, and I was like, I should probably go to school, get a degree of some sort. I didn't know what I wanted to do. My dad had dabbled in real estate. He had owned some of his own buildings for cell phone stores and some mini storages and some stuff like that. And I went to school, went to college, graduated at UCA, and while I was at UCA, he was kind of trying to figure out. I think he was 40, 45, maybe pushing 50 at that point. And when he sold his phone stores at the beginning, he thought, I'm just going to hunt and fish and play golf every day. Well, at 45 years old, all your buddies can't really hunt and fish and play golf every day. The
Yeah.
majority of them are still working. And so he figured out real quick that he's number one, he's not good at sitting around, just like I'm not. But number two, he needed something that he was still young, and I mean, it wasn't like he sold this company for billions of dollars. He still needed to work, and so he had always had a passion for real estate. It kind of lined up with a few of the rentals and stuff that we had, and so we decided he got his license in March of 14, and I got mine in August of 14. I didn't graduate college until 15, so I was a junior in college when I got my license. We kind of started. He got his before me, but he didn't do a ton with it before. We kind of got into it and really dove into it together, and that's really where it kind of took off. And kind of the same thing. I mean, I had that entrepreneurial mindset and some of that stuff, and once I got my first taste of making some money, helping some clients, figuring out that this could be like a career, not just a side gig type
Mm-hmm.
deal. Um, I figured out real quick it was extremely hard for me to finish my last year of college because I had got that taste of a career and making some money and all that. And obviously, you don't need a degree by technicalities to become a real estate broker or a builder or any of the things that I do. But I'm very glad that I got that degree. I don't know that I'll ever use it per se specifically that I have to have that degree to do what I do, but I think there's a huge value in this kind of going off topic, but finishing that degree and finishing anything you start.
Yeah.
So I was happy to do it. I was glad I did it once I did it. I hated I hated every minute of it while I was doing it. It was hard to do it, during I don't know what we did, but I think we sold 25 or 30 houses that first year while I was a senior in college. Driving back and forth to Conway, living here. Bethany and I had met and been dating for a while at that point. So, um, tons of things going into it, but that's kind of how I got into agent broker aspect. And then, like I said, Dad had rentals. Growing up, I was the paint boy, the trash boy, the cleaning boy, whatever I needed to do help and also make some money. I did everything from the ground up, and did that all the way through college. While I was still in college, I was driving back and forth to paint duplexes and stuff like that. So I think again, once you get in it and you figure out the ground level of what goes into it, and you kind of get to work your way into some of the higher level business decisions and figuring out all that stuff with my dad, learning from him and stuff like that. I mean, what more can you ask for? So
Yeah,
I hope my
yeah.
kid wants to do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, getting that hands on. I mean, it's amazing to be able to. Because here's the thing: you could have done all that. You could have followed your father around and done all these projects and been a part of all this business that he was doing, but not wanting to do that for yourself.
Yeah,
Just thinking that that's what you had to do because your dad told you to.
100%.
And so it kind of goes into like that whole story of you know the folks that are it's kind of weird how I connected these two, but just follow me here.
Yeah,
So ended up, it's almost like that perspective type, right? That where two people can have the same atmosphere, the same parents, the same outcome in life, or the same situation in
mm-hmm.
life, have two different complete outcomes.
100%.
By one going towards, saying, "Oh, this is the reason why I am this way,"
Yeah,
and the other one saying the exact same thing. This is the reason why I am
that's
this
right.
way, but it's perspective that they had
That's
to
right.
kind of take the ventures that they did.
Yeah, I mean, I have this conversation with people all the time. I've got tons of buddies I grew up with that their parents were entrepreneurs, business owners, successful type people that they had zero desire to do. And maybe it was the industry they were in, maybe it was the stress they saw their parents have, whatever it was. But at the end of the day, I think there's I think there's a huge misconception just in the world that if your parents have a business or are successful in some sort, that people walk into it and just don't. And I'm sure that some of these huge companies that people grow up being billionaires, yet maybe they don't have to work real hard when they take over the company or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. But I've got a lot of friends that had kind of the same path and same opportunities that I have that or had that didn't take the same steps or care as much
Yeah,
or want to grow it as much. Just kind of wanted it to be handed to them type
yeah.
deal. And
Didn't
so,
get a passion for it.
yeah. And, I don't want to say I like I did grow up thinking I was going to work with my dad forever. That was career day and all that stuff. I'd always have a little singular wireless name tag or whatever it was. And everybody knew that, my dad was the singular guy. Cause back then, I mean, this was in the late 90s, early 2000s. Cell phones weren't like I don't want to say they weren't a normality, but it was a whole lot different than
Yeah.
what it is
Oh yeah,
now. I
yeah.
mean, there was two guys in town that sold phones, and so um, I was always the kid coming to school that everybody wanted the newest faceplate or a wall charger or what. You didn't have Amazon back then,
Yeah, yeah.
It was. I make myself sound like I'm so old, but it was so different than what
Bro,
it is
you're old.
now. I know. I know. You're older though. I think. Are you older?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We're not
Yeah.
gonna talk about that.
That's what
No.
I thought. That's what I thought. But I didn't, I knew I wanted to work with my dad. I didn't necessarily know I wanted to build and develop and run a real estate company and all of those type things. But I knew I wanted to work with my dad and do something that mattered, that was, lucrative, that you could build a good life and build something for your kids and all of that stuff. And then kind of to come full circle. And now my wife works with us as well, a huge integral part of our business. And so, it's super cool to be able to. Now, don't get me wrong. There's days that everybody's wants to cat scratch everybody because you've been around each other 8 hours and maybe had some difference of opinions,
Yeah.
or sometimes I have to play client, boss, broker, whatever it is to your spouse. That's not always easy, but we handle it pretty well, I think.
Dude, and we had Bethany on the podcast.
Yeah,
One of the first,
yeah,
well,
she
the
beat
first
me
one
to
actually
it.
we had
Beat me
that we had
to
in
it. Yeah,
here. Man, she jumped on the opportunity,
yeah,
but it was a great podcast because we had that conversation of having that balance between the lifestyle of a real estate spouse or real estate agent that's also a spouse
yeah,
of another real estate agent, a broker, business owner, entrepreneur, and also being parents at the same time,
yeah.
and also having the father-in-law aspect from Bethany's
Oh
side
yeah.
in there as well too. So it's a really different dynamic than most people would ever even have the experience to go through.
Yeah, most people probably don't have that opportunity. It's probably very slim to have that opportunity, and the ones that do, I would say there's probably even slimmer opportunity or a slimmer class of people that uh, couldn't do it. I mean, because it can be work. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it can be you have to be intentional on work stuff, putting stuff away. But I mean, there's all the time, and especially now we've got two kids. Um, in the evening times, it's crazy, and you know as well as anybody in this office that real estate doesn't really sleep.
That's true.
And so that's another one of those things I've had to learn over time. And when I was a lot younger, I don't want to say hungrier, but maybe in a different position in life, I felt like I had to take every one of those phone calls. I felt like I had to respond to every one of those text messages at 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night. And now it's a little bit easier. It's still hard. It
Mm-hmm.
still bugs at me to let something sit. But you figure out real quick kind of what's important, what matters, what can wait. I mean, the reality is 9 times out of 10, there's nothing past 6 or 7 o'clock at night, maybe even 5 or 6 o'clock at night, that becomes an issue at that point. That either one or two things can't wait till tomorrow, or, well, really one thing, it can wait till tomorrow. But a lot of times, what I see is those issues were issues prior to 5 o'clock that day. And you, as the
Ah,
client, the other broker, the whatever position that other person's in, you chose to bring it to me at 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night. So it's not my duty. There's there's circumstances where some things come up and you got to handle them right then. But it's not always my duty to handle your problem after hours because you put it off until after hours. When I found out it arose at noon, you could have called me at noon.
amen. Amen to that.
But again, that comes with time, and sometimes it's still hard.
Yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
just again that and from now it's harder for me because I have so much going that now I want to handle it right then so I don't forget.
Gotcha.
Because if
Yeah.
I don't handle it right now by 6:30 in the morning, I'm gonna have seven other issues that have popped up,
Yeah.
and now that one's a seven down the line, and I've got to remember to not only address that issue but fix whatever it was or make a
It's still
call or
gonna need
what.
your attention
Yeah,
to
and
kind of get
so
forward.
if anybody ever like hacked into my phone and saw the text messages to myself or emails to myself, they'd be like, "What? This dude is psycho."
Full on conversations with
Oh,
yourself.
just back and forth, like go do this, go do that, and I like 9 times out of 10, I've got an unopened text message or an unopened email in my phone for myself because I'm very OCD on my emails. So if I have like 20 emails, there's a problem usually. Like that's the first thing I do is clean my email out every morning and 5 times a day. So if there's one in there, like I know if I see that little red notification, something in there needs to be handled, whether
Mhm.
it's printing something off or writing a check or whatever it is. And so I have to just stay on top of it or else I
Do you
forget.
you know how you can reply to your text? To reply to a text, a
Yeah, 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 yeah.
specific text? Do you ever do it to yourself?
No, because when you send a text to yourself, it shows the send and the receipt.
Yeah,
So I have two. It's like
I just think
write a check, write a check, write a check. I'm like,
I just
do I
think it would
write
be
one check
funny.
or two checks?
That's right.
Yeah.
What
No,
if
I
you
gotta,
went ahead and
yeah,
did
thank God it's
should,
white and blue, or else I would never know. But
I just think that would be hilarious having a whole full on conversation with yourself. Write a check. Man, I really don't want to do that today. Yeah,
no, I
yes,
haven't
okay.
gotten that crazy yet, but I'm well on the way. Well on the way.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you a question, but I'm gonna preface it with this. Have you ever watched? There's a gentleman on TikTok, a young man, that he goes around the country and he asks millionaires and billionaires questions about how they got to where they're at.
Yeah, I think I have seen that. I don't have
Okay,
TikTok, but I've seen it on Instagram and stuff like that.
okay, so he always prefaces he always goes into with another question of what would you say to your younger self to let them give them some
Yeah.
encouragement on like the number one tip you would give your younger self.
That's tough. I think probably the number one tip I would give my younger self is buy it. Just just buy it.
Okay.
Um, I've run into, and that's probably more towards the investment hat
Yes.
of that realm. On, I could probably think of 10 different things to say, but just buy it, whatever it is in that aspect. Typically, real estate is kind of our avenue, but I cannot tell you how many times Dad and I have walked away from back in the day, I say back in the day, 5, 6, 7 years ago, when we would buy flip houses or rent houses or whatever they turned out to be, a whole different market than we're in now. And we would walk away from a house, on a, whether it's a bidding war or, highest and best in the foreclosure world back in the day. And, you're offering $90,000 and that's your number. That's where you've got to put your money into it, whatever it is, on just a house. And the bank comes back or seller comes back or whatever and says, nope, no, I got to have 95. That's where I'm at. And you walk away from a house over $5,000 and now that house is worth 225. Just simply, and obviously the COVID market and the last 4 years have thrown everything for a not so normal loop. But nevertheless, when you look back at houses you nickel and dimed on over a couple $1,000s and they're worth double what they were, it'll make you sick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
a lot of things just to buy it. I mean, there's obviously times that stuff just doesn't work out, and sometimes the numbers don't work out. Sometimes it's not meant to be, and I'm a firm believer, and there's a reason for everything. But
managing that risk, but not losing an opportunity for something small, like you said.
Yes,
compared to the big picture.
100%. And now, when we're looking at buying something or whatever it is, now it's a lot easier to, because again, we learned the hard way. But now you can kind of sit back and you're going back and forth with a seller or a bank or at an auction or whatever it is, and you say, you're talking about a couple $1,000s, and you kind of have to back up and put yourself in that mindset of, okay, 2 weeks from now, if I find out that somebody else bought that house for $2,000 more than what I was going to pay for it, will I be irritated or not? And that's kind of where or 5 years from now, when that house is worth whatever, $50,000 more than what it is now, or whatever that is, well, that $2,000 or $5,000 or whatever it is, man. And sometimes it will. Sometimes nope, this is where I'm at. But I think more times than not, when you sit back and kind of propel yourself to the future and think about where that's likely going to be, none of us know the future, but we're all speculating on history repeats itself, yada, yada, yada. Once you figure out, or once you sit back and realize that you're probably splitting hairs over that amount of money, even though at that time that is a lot of money. I'm not trying to act like $2,000 is not a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of you're buying $100,000 house that's worth 150, that may be worth 200 in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, that $2,000 is gonna be something you laugh at down the road. And so, obviously, don't buy a house without making sure you've got the money. Don't go into not smart debt. I don't know, dumb debt. Maybe that's the word for that. But make sure you can afford whatever you're buying. But at the same time, don't get hung up on stuff, because man, it's cost me a lot of projects.
I was gonna say, you probably look back and regret a lot of those that you end up not pulling the trigger on.
Yeah, or not. There's things we were gonna build and we waited 5 years to build it, and building costs went up 37% or whatever it is, and it's like, man, if you'd have just done it then, you'd have that 37% would be equity now. Whatever it is, most of the time it works out over time.
For sure. All right, so of course, like, I may be a little biased because of the fact that Edge is the only home I've had when it comes to real estate, but
better stay that way.
Amen to that. What in your thoughts makes our brokerage so great? Let's start with the atmosphere. Let's start with
that's what I was going to say. That was actually where I was going. Culture, atmosphere. I think we've always said we're one big family, and we don't just say that. We don't act it. We live it out. When you hire one of us, you kind of hire all of us type deal. There's never, I don't know of anybody currently that's still here with us as an agent that if another agent with Edge came up to them, told them they have a problem, situation, issue, whatever it is, that they wouldn't drop what they're doing and help them with it right then. Whether there's a compensation involved, whether there's none of that matters. It's, you're part of our family, so I'm going to help you because you're successful, I'm successful, we're successful type deal. And I think everybody truly lives that out. from the top to the bottom. I think everybody knows we've got a kind of an open door, not kind of a 100% open door policy here. Whether it's me, Jim, you, Jessica, whatever it is, they know that they can come ask a question and feel comfortable asking that question, even the hard questions. Not they're not all easy topics to discuss, but I think everybody feels comfortable enough to talk to us about it, and then typically that's going to breed that culture, that atmosphere that there's a level of comfort with. It's just, I mean, it's the same thing with your. I don't have older kids, but I obviously grew up as a kid, and I know when I raise my kids when they get older, like I want them to be able to talk to me as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's talking about things I disagree with, whether it's talking about things that I don't even want them to know about at that time in their life, whatever it is. I think it's important to have that relationship with your kids, that you can talk to me about anything, no matter what it is, no matter how much trouble you think you're going to be in, you can talk to me about it. And I kind of have that same mindset. We all kind of have that same mindset here of bring it to me. There are some dumb questions, but tell everybody there's no dumb questions. Like I would rather answer a dumb question than us get into a situation regarding that dumb question. And so people know that they can come to me with the questions that they may know the answer to, but they just want to run it by me first. I had an agent just before this that came in there, told me about a situation that had happened, told me about what happened, how it happened, all these things that she knew she did something maybe a little bit wrong, not like detrimentally, but she made a mistake, just a simple mistake, but she was able to come to me and tell me about it to where at least if I'm approached about it, I know what happened.
Yes.
And then I could we talked through the solutions, how we can fix this, how we can do better next time. And so I think all that kind of breeds all the way around the atmosphere, the culture, the family atmosphere, that we are pretty intentional about trying to breed.
Yeah,
and have been from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it stems back from, all the way from the beginning,
Yeah.
where it was meant to be not like other brokerages.
That's right.
I know at the beginning, Edge Realty was definitely, and we still have our hashtag up there, Rush Edge, because we're thought to be almost like a fraternity, like a fraternity or a
bunch of fraternity brothers running around
exactly.
there.
But I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's not just about, about just having fun. We played hard, but we darn well worked hard as well.
That's
too.
right. Yeah.
So it's getting that nice atmosphere, but it's one that we didn't, like, you guys didn't have to create. It wasn't like created. You didn't push for it.
Nope.
It just happened that way. And those are usually the best cultures that are created.
Yeah, I think we didn't intentionally try to create something. I think we did. Me, you, JC, Dad, all the people that have been around, tons of other people. That's not the only people that have been around from the get-go, but tons of people that intentionally tried to surround themselves with the same type people, the same cultured people, the same beliefs and same values, all those things, to where then it kind of branded itself. It created itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the coolest part about it, is we didn't hire a branding agency or ask what we need to do or what kind of, I mean, yes, we've had social media people and people involved that have helped us grow, but everybody that's ever, you from a marketing standpoint, anybody else that we've ever had work on brand type stuff, like everybody's just taken us and spun off of us.
Yes.
They didn't have to come in and create. I mean, yes, some of your crazy videos and stuff, yeah, you got to tell us what to do or whatever, but not everybody's going to do a crazy video like that.
Right.
You can kind of spin that off of us and what we've created, and we were intentional about wanting to create that, but we didn't have to try.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I've been going a lot with whenever we're talking to our agents or anybody in particular that's asking about branding or marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is it's try not to create like a thought of what it is that you want people to see.
Yeah.
Just take what you already have.
Yep.
And then push that out there so that
preach that every meeting, every training, every time you're talking to any agent, I hear you saying, be you, be authentic. If that authenticity is something that somebody else disagrees with, or that's not them, or that's not how they like, that may not be a good fit for you as a
That's
client
fine.
or for you as an agent or vice versa.
Yeah,
They may not. And there's a reason I don't know what the number is, but thousands of agents across this state and hundreds of agents across our city. There's a reason because there's all kinds out there. I
exactly.
mean, there is somebody for everybody, and there's enough to go around. That's what I tell people all the time because we have what I feel like are good relationships with brokerages around town and brokers and agents and all that stuff. And people ask me all the time. My wife's best friend is an agent with another company.
Hmm.
People ask me all the time about that, and I'm like, number one, I'm a very working home like business. I don't say pleasure, but business personal life difference. Like you don't want to get that stuff involved too much if you don't have to, but at the same time, like there's enough, we can all support one another. Like there is so much. I saw another agent post something on Facebook yesterday that said realtor to realtor, I hope you win.
I was just gonna say that.
And I'm
Yes.
like, why that's okay. Like you
Yes.
don't, just because we are different firms, just because you are a competitor doesn't mean that we can't all be successful. I
Absolutely
mean,
right.
I wish I had the stats in front of me, but I don't know how many houses are sold in Cabot annually or to date annually, but there's plenty to go around for the agents that are working. Now, there's obviously a lot of agents that are just in it and they don't work, but the ones that are in here and work, like there's plenty of business to go around for everybody.
Most definitely.
And there's no reason that we can't all support one another. Yes, I'm gonna rep my client to the very best of my ability, and I hope that you do. And the state and ethics laws and all that stuff says you should rep your client to the best of your ability, but that doesn't mean we have to be enemies.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's two sides to every transaction.
And that's the way I think a lot of people. There's a few different reasons. I feel some people will end up taking the business aspect personally, and that's
Every time.
to an extent, right? To
Yep.
an extent, having passion for what it is that you
Yep.
do, and having that want for your client
Yeah.
that is in their better interest.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're also here for the same reason. We're all here for the same reason, whether it be yourself and another broker, or myself and another broker, another
Yep.
agent working a deal. We're here to help each other's clients make the best decision and get like a win-win.
That's
Let's
right.
let's find the win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
As long as it's the right way and it's the ethical way, and it really is a win-win for everybody, and it's not like teeter-tottering
Right.
for towards somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, and like you just said, everybody, like, say we're two separate brokerages, companies working a deal. Like you've got your client to represent, I've got my client to represent. But at the end of the day, nobody's best interest, most of the time, nobody's best interest is if somebody hires you to buy or sell or me to buy or sell, the end goal is to get it bought or sold,
Yes.
closed. The whole transaction, like there's not a success unless we get to the closing table, and you're not, most of the time you're not going to get to a closing table unless you can work through some issues with another agent. And
Absolutely right.
sometimes those are issues caused by a buyer, issues caused by a seller, issues caused by a lender or a title company or inspector, whoever it is involved with the transaction. A lot of our day to day is fixing problems.
Yeah.
I mean that is a lot of what we do as agents each and every day. And if you can't be a problem solver and figure out what's the best way to get to the end goal, which is to close the transaction, where do we get everybody to there? Like, yes, I'm looking out for my client's best interest, but my client's best interests aren't met if they don't sell their house.
Yeah.
That's why they hired me.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of people get, just like you said, they take things or offers or negotiations or tactics or whatever it is, they take it immediately personally. And especially
Hmm.
people that are selling their house. Like that, it's one of the things we see more than anything is people get emotionally attached to the house they've lived in, raised their kids in, married their spouse in, whatever it is. And, we have to coach people through that a lot of, hey, your goal is to sell this house. So you're at the end of the day, like this house is not going to be yours. So whether somebody wants it painted a different color or whether somebody thinks it's worth a different amount or whatever it is, like don't take it personal. Let's just
Hmm.
negotiate and you've got a number. Maybe it's list price, but you've got a number. Let's find that number and see if that number meets their number and let's marry,
Man,
get to the end.
negotiation is the game, and if you don't like the game, this is not the right spot for you. Either that, or you're not gonna be doing it right for your clients.
No, or you're
So
gonna have a heart attack because you're so stressed out. I
exactly.
mean, it's at some point you have to look at it as like a game. I mean,
Yeah,
it
it's
really,
got
really is.
you do have to enjoy it.
Yeah,
It's got to be enjoyable for you, and it's like you said, it's having that love and passion for troubleshooting and
hmm
finding a solution. You know what I mean? Being that researcher, being that negotiation expert, that's got to be fun for you
hundred
for
percent,
this to for you to be successful in this.
100%. Yep.
Let's go into this real quick. What in your thoughts would is what does it take for a agent today to be successful in this fluctuating market?
Kind of right off of what we just talked about. I mean, I think you got to be a problem solver. Number one, I guess the first thing you got to be willing to work. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you got to put in the work, and that's sometimes that's at night, sometimes that's on the weekends, sometimes that's early mornings, whatever that ends up being that fits your life. But you got to be willing to put in the work. I mean, we have this conversation with new agents a lot because we end up having a lot of new agents, and the number one thing I tell people is you got to treat this like a job. Like this isn't a side gig. This isn't. I know it is for some people, but if you're coming in and you're trying to change your life, your family's life, whatever it is, you've got to treat this like a job. So a normal job, you're going to have 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever it is. You're going to work 7, 8 hours a day. You're going to have X amount of tasks and things that you're supposed to do. And so as an agent, you don't have somebody like, yes, we'll guide you and tell you what to do, how to do it, and all that. But we're not coming in and checking in on you at 8 o'clock and doing a roll call, make sure everybody's here.
Right.
That you're an independent contractor. That's the probably 75% of the reason people get into this business is because they can make their own schedule and make as much money as they want and all this stuff. And you can, but you're going to put in the work,
Yeah.
and you have to schedule your day out, task orient your business to where you are specifically, you have tasks and money, like I said earlier, money making tasks, money making opportunities that you figure out where is my time best spent today. And maybe that's making phone calls, maybe that's doing pop buys, maybe that's sending out emails or whatever that is. Maybe that's showing houses, but to get to that end point of, and especially on the front end, on the ground level when you get in, a lot of that stuff is going to be that in the office, uh, phone calls, emails, text messages, videos, social media marketing, and then getting out and pop buys, community events, chamber events, networking, all that stuff to because you have to build a sphere.
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of people, some people come into this business with an incredible sphere of influence, and typically those people are more successful earlier
Mm-hmm.
because they have a sphere that they've either built through another job, through their kids or their husband or wife, whatever it is. And I mean, the reality is to have clients in this business, you got to know people. That's just yes, there are people that are successful by strictly paying for leads or whatever that is, and you can do that. But it's going to cost you a lot of money. You're going to work a whole lot. I mean, we've had agents that have spent 10, 15, $20,000 a month
Yes.
on leads, whether it's Zillow or Realtor.com or Facebook or whatever it is. And most of the time, those people that do that, they make more than that. If you spend 10, you're probably gonna make 20. You spend 20, you're probably gonna make 40. But if you can organically figure out how to work your sphere, the people that you know that love you, they're gonna use you no matter what, whether you're a real estate agent or a insurance salesman or a plumber, they're gonna call you for their problem. And if you can build those people to refer you and put your name out there, that's free. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, maybe you got to spend some money taking them to lunch or doing pop buys or whatever, but it's a whole lot less than paid leads online.
For sure.
So I guess to kind of circle back to your first point, the number one thing is work hard. Um, the next thing is be a problem solver, and then after that, I mean, a lot of that stuff falls into both of those categories.
Yeah, and just
Work hard and be a problem solver. Most things that you could say a new agent needs to do could probably umbrella under those categories.
yeah, and it just evolve from there. You know,
Yeah.
it's having that growing mindset
Yeah.
of staying the student. That's
That
kind of what I always
I love it.
will try to do is try to stay the student. You again, we don't know everything.
No.
And on top of that, our industry is always evolving
Oh
anyways.
my gosh.
So you got to be able to adapt,
Yes.
and being able to adapt, also having the mindset to be able to adapt, because yes, you can adapt, but if you have that negative mindset of like,
Yep.
oh, here
You
we
have to be
go again,
excited about
this
that
is new
adaptation.
change, this is something different, I don't like this, why are they doing this? If it's out of your control, it's out of your control. Let's move on
That's
and
right.
see how do we adapt to that so that we can get better at what
100%.
it is that we do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think we've been going through that right now. We've been preaching that for probably almost a year,
Hmm.
8, 9, 10 months at least.
We've been telling people it's
We've
coming.
been telling people it's coming, telling our agents it's coming, trying to get ahead of what's going to happen. We weren't very successful of trying to figure it out because they kept changing it.
Yeah.
But that's what we've been preaching to our agents is that mindset, not having that negative mindset. No, all of these changes that we've are encountering or have just encountered, um, very few people. There's some people out there that were excited about them, but very few people were excited about them. Whether that's how you're operating your business or not, whether it's a complete change or it's not a lot of change, it's still change. It's still required by law change that, even if that's how you were doing it before, it's still a little more important now. It's a little more tedious now. It's the repercussions are a lot bigger now. And so, and I think people, clients, customers, whatever you want to call them, they can sense that negativity that you're talking about. They know based on your Facebook posts, based on how you talk about the changes, based on your confidence level, based on all those things, they can tell real quick whether you think they're good or bad changes, whether you're excited about them or not. And then I think on top of that, I think clients and the general public, they're gonna they're gonna catapult off of your mentality of it.
Yes.
If you come into it to a showing and you're talking or a buyer consultation or whatever, and you're talking about these changes and you have to sign these buyer's agreements and all this stuff, and you're talking about it negatively,
Hmm.
they're immediately going to think this is ridiculous that we've got to do this. Why can't it be the old way? But if you come into it, you tell them every positive of why that's going to be that way. If you tell them why the changes were made, if you explain the lawsuit, explain the mindset of some of the sellers, yes, where there's silly things involved in the lawsuit and some of the things said, and yes, but that's a lawsuit. You get attorneys involved in $1 billion lawsuits, there's going to be silly stuff that happens. But if you can breed your clients to have the mentality or the thought process of what you do, or really you don't even have to breed them to have that. If you can just have the positive one, they're going to take that from you. And the same thing as the negative, and we've seen that firsthand.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's why, like, I think a lot of that comes from the lack of knowledge,
I agree.
lack of knowledge, and not researching themselves to,
Preparation.
to be prepared.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Because that knowledge is going to be power. And
Yep.
with that power, you can ensue that passion, which comes back towards you. Or, like you said, it gets it's infectious
Yep.
for other people as
Yep.
well, too.
100%.
So why not prepare yourself for the change and then be ahead of the game?
Yeah, and I
So,
think that can come into play on not just these NAR changes, but I mean, like you said earlier, our business changes yearly at
at
least,
least.
but almost monthly, quarterly, weekly. There's something new that comes in that we don't necessarily like. It's not like a memo that comes out of this is a new way of doing things, but you may get an offer from an agent or have see a new listing or see a new video or a new realtor open house or open house style or whatever, that all of those things those are all ever evolving, changing things, and that's how all of us learn. I mean, nobody here created Sunday open houses or realtor open houses, or all somebody did it and then somebody else did it and it just became a thing.
Hmm.
And so that's how all the new trends and um, marketing strategies and all that stuff, those are just things that most of the time, I mean, yeah, maybe somebody watching this or somebody in our office is the one that created it, but they're not going to be the last one to do it if it's successful.
Right.
And so everything's changing every single day, really. And that's why a lot of the times you or me or Jim or Tamara, brokers that have been in this business for years and years and years, may call and I may even call and ask, like, how would you do this? What's your mindset on, give you the situation and what would your answer be? And a lot of times I just want to make sure I'm thinking the right thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm thinking exactly what you just told me, and that's some confirmation. And sometimes your viewpoint on it, the way you read that paragraph or the way you read that text message or whatever it is, maybe I had a blistered heart when I was reading it, or I was irritated with the situation, or there's a reason to have a couple sets of eyes touch. I mean, there's a reason that there's a broker and an agent spot on a contract. There's every one of us can make mistakes on anything, or even how we interpret stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important.
Oh, absolutely, man. That's one of the things I love about our office and our brokerage is that, just like you said, we can go to somebody else with an idea, even if it's just for a confirmation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to confirm the fact that we're not thinking about it wrong,
Right.
or that it would be a good idea to do it the way we're going to handle it. And the open dialogue is one of the things that I absolutely love, especially when we start doing the training classes.
Mm-hmm.
With the training classes, it's not just us sharing. It's not one person at the front of the office sharing their thoughts or doing an entire training class. It's an open dialogue,
Q&A type deal,
more of a Q&A, or even just having other people share their thoughts on what they've done, what their experience is. And I think it builds for a more genuine and a bigger goal when it comes to our training and stuff like that. Man, I know we only have a few minutes left, but what's something that you would put out there for our potential clients or our past clients to know, something that you would want them to know about Edge Realty and why they need to choose us?
Probably some of the stuff that we've already talked about. I mean, I think one of the big things is when you hire one of us, you hire all of us. And I think from a client standpoint, that's extremely valuable because we've got people that have been in this business, 2 months, and we've got people that have been in this business 2 decades. And there's value from both of those people. Mm-hmm. Whether person A over here has the real estate knowledge or not. Maybe they don't have the real estate knowledge, but maybe they have a different type of knowledge that somebody else that's probably older, if they've been in the business that long, they may not have that knowledge on marketing stuff or trends or topics or social media or whatever it is. And that's the valuable thing when you get one of us, you get all of us type deal. And so I think that's important. I think something we haven't really talked about that we're very, very passionate about, or one of our mottos or whatever it is always do the right thing. And that's when you walk in our office, that's one of the first things you'll see. All of these topics and situations and problem solving sessions, I guess you could call them, that we have talked about today, most every one of those either starts or ends with what's the right thing to do. And whether it's a spat or a topic with a client or an agent or another broker, whatever it is, what's the right thing to do? And typically that's going to answer your question. Mm-hmm. Maybe not always, but most of the time that's going to answer your question and give you the guidance and the knowledge. And that's when an agent comes to me with a problem or a question. Most of the time that's my first question is, what do you think the right thing to do is? And then we'll make sure that lines up with what we're trying to do. But 9 times out of 10, really 10 times out of 10, we're going to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. A lot of times that's not the most profitable thing. A lot of times that's not the easiest thing to do, but let's just do the right thing. But I think all of that correlates with why somebody would want to use Edge Realty.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think having those core values, man, those core values really do sink down deep whenever we're talking about what it is that we do here and what we try to do here and what we try to uphold. And I think that a lot of the time ends up saving us from, either getting into a bad position or avoiding it altogether.
Yep.
Knock on wood, haven't had to go through some of the situations that a lot of real estate agents have gone through. But and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that you guys drove that into us from the beginning, which was always do the right thing and relationships, not transactions.
Yeah.
And having that thought is powerful. It's powerful altogether.
I think the always do the right thing is obviously that kind of says for itself what it means, but I think that, and then relationships, not transactions, it hits two sides of any problem. So first, do the right thing, whether it's your client, your firm, your whatever it is, do the right thing. And then on the other hand, worry about your relationships and not your transactions. And from a client standpoint, from taking care of your client, most of the time, that's going to feed right into always doing the right thing, handling that relationship. And then the transactions, they just come. I mean, that's if you, it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier. If you've got the relationship with people, it doesn't matter if you sell real estate, if you sell insurance, if you do plumbing or electrical, or sell shoes, whatever it is. If you've got the relationship, somebody's gonna call you with whatever it is you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you handle those relationships properly, the rest of it kind of falls into play. And
Yeah.
then you just got to make sure you're knowledgeable enough. You surround yourself with the right people to make sure that you can handle your client for whatever they're hiring you to do. Make sure you're a master of your trade.
Oh, most
Yeah.
definitely. Putting that 10,000 hours.
Yep.
I gotta ask you this: what's something that you enjoy very much about, owning this company, but also working with this company?
People. I think that's the first. I know it's what we kind of keep talking about, but um, the people, whether it's the clients I get to deal with, sometimes they're my clients, sometimes they're somebody else's clients if we're dealing with an issue or a question or whatever it is. But then our agents. I mean, our agents are, like we said earlier. I mean, they're our family. I mean, these people. Some of these people have been around to see me get married, to see me have my kids. When Jack runs in here, the first thing he does is wants to go see Ruthie and Kate and Josh and Jessica and all these people that he's. I mean, they've known him since he was born. They were the ones bringing us food when we had our kid. I mean, so the relationships I get to build with these agents, and even the ones that have only been here a year or something, these are people we've celebrated with, that we've grieved with, that we've went through issues and hardships and hard times and struggles and all, and they're still here, and so there's something to be said about that, and that's especially in today's world. I think you see it from all the way from like bottom level, small businesses, kind of like we are, all the way up into, professional sports and all that stuff. You see a lot more people jumping, whether, jumping ship, trading teams in sports,
Yeah.
or moving places. The grass is always greener on the other side. It's the world we live in,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And there's always something better. Everybody always thinks there's something better. And so when you have those people that have truly stuck by you from the beginning, I mean, it's like you said, you've never had another real estate home. I mean, there's that we've got a relationship like none other. I
Yeah.
mean, because we've been through the successes and failures of real estate, but we've been through the successes and failures of life.
Yes.
And that's the stuff that you can't buy. Money can't buy that stuff. It doesn't matter how many houses you sell or how much money you make or any of that. Those relationships are the ones that, the rest of it, just, it's cool to be successful and make some money and earn a good living and all the things that we get to do in our career here. But being able to have somebody you can call at midnight because you've got a problem that has nothing to do with real estate, nothing to do with Edge Realty, but that's your homie. That stuff's cool, there,
Yeah.
and we've got that. All of us have that with different people throughout. Luckily, I have a good relationship with everybody here. But each agent has their own close friend inside the office,
Yeah.
their own partner, so to speak, that you can go to with your real estate problems, but also your life problems and your not to get too far into like drama stuff at the office. Nobody wants that, but at the same time, like it's cool to be able to have the relationship with the people that we do.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're not just real estate agents. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
We're husbands, we're wives, we're
Absolutely.
parents, we're kids. We are friends. So it's that was one of the things that obviously sold me on Edge Realty
Yeah.
was the family aspect. Was when I came in, it just seemed as though you were you weren't treated differently. Even if you
Mm.
were brand new, you weren't
No.
treated differently if you had come in an expert or a novice, and it was extremely easy to get along with
Yep.
everybody. And not only that, but we keep emphasizing on this, but it's true. It's that family aspect
Yep.
of if you're here, your family. Not to take away Olive Garden, but
Welcome to Cabot.
but uh, but yeah. So it's that was a huge thing that really kind of
Yeah.
stood out to me whenever we came together, and I think and it stayed tried and true for me. You've been there for me and my ups and downs.
Yeah.
You've been there professionally and personally, along with with Jim and with Tamara and with,
Yeah.
I mean, countless people that we
Yeah.
have
There's time. I
here.
mean, we could go through the whole roster of people and name stories and situations, both personally and professionally, that we were there for them. They were there for us.
Mm-hmm.
We stood there and cried on each other's shoulders. Whatever it is that, it's just it's cool. I mean, it's one of those things that I think it's probably especially in today's world, like we talked about earlier, in the techie world, the Zooming and Google Meets and all the things that have pushed people away from people over the last
Mm-hmm.
5 years, especially in the business world. And there's plenty of great things that have come from virtual based things. And don't get me wrong, there's a huge value in that, but there's also a huge value in being in an office with your people
Oh yeah.
every day.
Oh yeah.
And that was one of the hardest things for me through COVID and through all that stuff is like, I'm not a work from home guy. That is not my gig. Or virtual meetings or all that stuff. But that was the world we lived in for a little while. So we adapted and figured it out. But being able to have that personal relationship with people, not just a, hey Corbin, how are you? I've got this problem, or I got this new listing I want to tell you about, or whatever. It's my grandkids were in town this weekend, and I got to take them to the park, and we went to see Disney on Ice, or whatever it is and that stuff's cool to hear because I know how much that means to them,
Yeah.
and they wanted to tell me about it,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna listen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the same thing when they agents come in, and the first thing they ask is how did Jack enjoy the football game, or
Yeah.
how's Maggie's feet doing, or whatever it is that they know. And luckily social media keeps everybody updated with a lot of things, but everybody in here knows the most of the struggles that all of us are facing because we just
Mm-hmm.
talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a family, it's an open book. You're not gonna get judged by talking about that stuff. And
Right.
so it's pretty cool. It's something I think a lot of people lack especially in the business world.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think some people may see it as being lackadaisical or being laid back, but to us, it's the comfort.
That's
It's the
right.
it's the comfort of having that ability to be able to open up to everybody that's here and have that, at least even if there's one or two people here that you have that with.
That's right. Yeah, it doesn't
Yes.
have to be with all 40 of us. I
Right.
mean, you're going to have your people that you just jive better with. You have more things in common with. Your kids are the same age. Your marital status is the same. Whatever that is, that it's going to probably guide you to some similar interests,
Hmm.
inside or outside the workplace. So it's kind of what we talked about earlier about um, adapting and being yourself on social media or on whatever it is. It goes back to be like kind of what you were talking about, being laid back. I mean, dress code. There's plenty of firms out there that would not let people wear jeans and boots.
Yeah.
Or they want you to have, maybe you can wear boots, but slacks or dress suit or business suits or whatever it is every single day, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that
Hmm.
by any means. But we want you to be you. Now, don't come to work in your pajamas. Yeah, there's a happy median there.
Right.
But be you. We tell people all the time, dress to your client. If you're going to show a $2 million house to a doctor and an attorney or something, you may want to dress up a little bit, look nice. But if you're going to show a 200-acre ranch to a farmer or to a builder for a development or whatever, and you're going to be riding a side by side, like throw some rubber boots on and do your thing.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and
You
so
may want to leave the heels or the
yeah,
polished shoes in the car.
what they call red bottoms or
Red
whatever.
bottoms,
Yeah,
yeah.
those probably won't work out there. But it's all back to being you
Yeah.
through it all. So
Authenticity, I think,
authenticity
is the name of the game for
yeah,
this
the name of this podcast.
That's right, authenticity,
Yeah,
right there, brother.
I love it.
Man, I know you got a busy day, but I want to always thank you again. For
Absolutely.
doing this with
Thanks
me,
for
brother.
having me. I love it.
I love you, man. I
Likewise.
appreciate you being here and appreciate everything that you do in this building and in our lives as well too.
Absolutely.
And I know I'm lucky to call you a friend and to call you a mentor. So
Likewise.
thank you so much for everything
Likewise,
you do,
buddy.
brother. This
Appreciate
is awesome. We got to keep doing these more.
Yes,
And
we'll do it.
We can
Should
get a
schedule
schedule
it
in.
a couple months in.
We'll get on the schedule right now.
Yeah. What are you looking like in the spring?
Awesome,
No, we'll make it work. We'll make it work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you guys, if you guys found this valuable, if there's information on here that you feel as though somebody else can find some value in as well too, please be able to share it with them. And if you have any questions or any highlights on something that we've kind of covered a little bit of today that you may want to know more about, go ahead and put it in the comments below. Leave us a note, shoot us a DM, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Again, thank you, Corbin Kidd,
Absolutely.
Principal Broker, co-owner of Edge Realty.
Thank you guys for watching.
Absolutely. Every time. We love you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Yashua Suarez, CMO, Edge Realty. Thank you very much. This is another episode of the Edge Realty podcast in the books, and we will see you next time. Hey, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Edge Realty podcast. We hope you found the insights valuable and enjoyed the discussion. If you did, we'd love for you to help us spread the word. Please share this episode with friends, family, and anyone you think might benefit from our content. Your support helps us reach more people and continue bringing you the best real estate insights. Don't forget to engage with us on social media. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube to stay updated with our latest episode, behind the scenes content, and more. We love hearing from you, so drop a comment, ask a question, or share your thoughts on what topics you'd like for us to cover on future episodes. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast, which is now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Amazon Music, so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening and watching. We'll see you next time on the Edge Realty podcast, where we're dedicated to helping you navigate the world of real estate with confidence and success. Until then, take care and happy house hunting.